Okay, so this is like the second part. I don't know how many parts it'll be. The area where we are right now, we've got the design laid down in such a way where we just show the name of the test, start the test button, group that holds on to a particular question with a repeating group of its associated answer choices. User can click onto an answer choice, and when they're doing that, it is modifying the data Jedi element, the user answers. So when we need to modify something, we're always needing to get the ID, and right now I'm just going to set this up so I can at least ensure I've got my ID. So with that, what am I trying to modify here? This actually, I think, is the wrong thing to do here. We've got two different things, right? We've got when the data Jedi elements count is greater than or equal to 1, which is basically saying there are more questions coming up. And then here, we're saying that that is finishing the test, right? I'm going to say test session complete. All right, so this is not really a modification. This is supposed to be a creation. No, actually, sorry. The next question does the creation. We're supposed to create it at the next question because we are needing the start and end time. All right, so let's get this. We got next question, all right, and then this is, I'm in my head right now, honestly, I'm like, oh man, I need to add a new feature. I need to have a feature so that when the pagination has completed, I am writing a note. Okay, so the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm a little nervous at this moment to say how quick will the setup, like how quick will we know that the question's available to us in the group, right? Because I'm going to need to create this thing based on this group's value, because we're paginating through the questions. And so working on this, the paginator goes to the next question. Well, this is the stage with the button next question. Like that's the stage that I want to then also send values into the data Jedi for the user answers, right? Basically create them so that we can log when did they start. And without knowing for sure how quickly, like within the workflows, is that going to be available? It's always nicer to have like an event that could just basically get triggered when you know that your action, your processing of something has completed. And so that's why I want to set up another feature there. Because I don't think that I have it. Yeah, let's now have to delete this there. Okay, so this next thing there, I want, what am I gonna run that off of? All right, so I think it's going to be good to use this thing and list. It's another element in Data Jedi plugin. The types of things are questions. The list of things are the data. Yeah, I was thinking for a moment that I needed to use the pageant. I don't. And this thing is going to be the paginator questions. Paginated items first item. I'm forgetting for a moment how this, I haven't used this thing that much, and I'm forgetting off the top of my head exactly what I'm supposed to be doing with it. I hope that works. Okay. I should have put this into the thing earlier because I think that it would have been good too, just for knowing like if it's the last, like how many questions are left and such. There's all sorts of other values around to get to that. Alright, workflow here. So yeah, what I want to do is now I need to create this thing, and now that I have that thing on list, I'm going to use one of its exposed values, which is like the next thing in the list. Yeah, either way, I'm expecting maybe I have some kind of an issue when it comes to this, regarding like which one is it grabbing, which question ID. Alright, so I'll just end up moving the thing up anyway to hopefully get that done. So we're going to do the convert data Jedi. We're going to be doing it onto the option of the name being the user answer. Okay, and this is where we're creating it, and so we need to set up our JSON. Let's go into the API connector, user answer, let's copy that, workflows, there we go. Alright, so we can get rid of this because we will have the conversion take place with the creation of a ID for it. We're going to set the append values to yes, because as we add more items this way through the conversion, we're going to basically add the new items into the list that already exists on the data Jedi element. And if we had it set to no, it would basically override it, right? And I will be triggering this. It's complete. Probably don't really need it. All right, let's get this set up. So the question ID is going to be the thing in list, and next thing's ID. Okay, so if the next thing doesn't work, then I have the thing itself being whatever it is at that time. And I just feel like the next thing is probably going to be the right way. And I do want to move this up anyway. So my goal is basically for the thing in list to give me the next thing ID in this conversion before the workflow ever gets to the next page action here. Because these things are tied into each other, like the data source being the page or the group of question. All right, so the test ID is here, our current page test and unique ID. All right, so selected answer. Selected answer is going to be happening when they actually make their answer choice. That's going to be a modification. That's going to be a modification of something that has already been created and held into the data Jedi. So selected answer, correct. We don't need those. We need the started at, we need the test session and the user ID. All right, so I'm just going to take these things and get rid of them. The answer to that is not necessary. Test session ID is, and user ID is. All right, so started at, let's get this as the current date and time, formatted as the simplified extended ISO. Okay. I don't know if well, we have the element, I just reference it. Okay. So test session, value list first items ID, and user ID, current user's ID. So this will be creating the thing. It will be adding it onto the list of others that already exist. And when that happens, an ID will be created for it automatically. And we'll see that in the element. And without the other field values, they'll just be empty. They'll be accessible, you know, through dynamic expressions, etc., but they'll just be shown as is empty. And so now what we want to make sure of is when the selector is done, we're modifying it. And so I just want to double check here, okay? In both of these situations, yes, I am wanting to modify, and I need to modify the basically most recent addition into the user answers value list. That's the data Jedi user answer value list. And I can sort this by the started time, started at, and the setting should be no. Close and first items ID. Okay, so that's how I target the right one. Now let's come in and get into some of the other values. What do we need? We need the selected answer, correct. Yeah, I'm just gonna go back into here and get that. So we've got select correct, okay, and then answered at. Workflow. Alright, so let's just put this in. It's going to be the current date and time, and formatted as the simplified extended ISO. And correct, we need to know if it's correct. We don't know. So right here, well, we do know because we know which one they're clicking, but either way. Current cells answer choice ID. All right? Then we can just copy that expression, come back into here to the true, insert dynamic data, paste that, and then the correct and format it as JSON safe. So the correct answer ID, we need to filter out the list of answer choices for the question that they're on in order to know which one is correct by filtering off of the correct of the field correct. So let me just think about this for a moment. If I have I've got this repeating group set up already with the filter. That's simple enough. Okay, so let's just copy that expression, come back into the workflow, and correct answer ID. All right, so insert that dynamic ID, paste that in, filtered is basically saying we're on the question, right? And then I want to know, is correct true? Correct equals true. Yes. And first item ID, because that is the correct answer, is ID. So that should be fine. Let's set this to yes. No. So that should be working for the modification of that. Let's just copy this and paste it, because I was taking the lazier approach here of not doing a custom workflow and just doing it this way. Alright, so that, yeah, what else did we need to do? Oh, we want to do things with the local storage. And so for that, we'll set up some stuff. So basically, every time that local storage is written, I want to read it. I like doing that just because it allows me to debug very easily. And also just have things in sync, and it just, for a lot of times there's going to be moments where I might use local storage as a reference of data. So I'm just in the habit of using the event, which is when the local storage is written to then also read it. And so here I'm just going to be saying read local storage. And the local storage name, this one is already selected because you're just taking it off of the element, like which element had its event. So that's user answers. So inside of here, my name is going to be, that would have been good. Huh. Sorry, I'm writing a note. Alright, so the note that I just wrote to myself is to have a new feature that is essentially exposing the name of the local storage, like so that here we can say this local storage's name. Because this literally is just saying, like, when it is written to, read it. And so I would like to be able to make that just a little bit simpler. So either way, I'll just go back in and get the option for it, and that is the name. And so here we are looking at user answers. Is this the right one? User answers, yes. I display, and the key name will be the same thing. Okay. Read local storage trigger. No, we are not going to be getting into a loop of reading and writing and reading and writing. So no. And here, when do we write? Well, we're going to be writing a lot, at least every time here and here and here and there. But we've got two different local storages because we need an individual one for each of the different kind of keys or object lists. Alright, so here I'm gonna copy this and paste that, and it will be the user test session, and the read would be the user test session, and then user test session. Okay, so now I want to just set up an actual custom event. Come on. So let's say this is write local storage user test session. Okay. And with this, we are going to write local storage. This will be the user test session. Key will be the same. Okay. I'm not going to do any expiration. I am going to trigger that it wrote. Basically, that's triggering the event that we've already set up, so that as soon as we write, we can read it again. And now the value, I'm just going to be getting my JSON for the user test sessions. Where is the workflow? Okay. So that, and I'm going to put my brackets onto it. Okay, so this is going to come off of the data Jedi element user test session. Wrote another note to add another exposed state onto the data Jedi element to be the first item. I'm sick of writing first items so often. I'm just gonna make it so I don't have to. Alright, insert dynamic data, and we want the test ID. Let's get this. Complete. Format it as JSON safe. Come on out. And here we go. Paste that. Start at. Alright, so I'm going to put these into simplified extended ISO and simplified extended ISO. Okay, so basically custom event to just write to the local storage this, and I'm going to trigger this when the start happens, right? But this convert, I want to know that the values are ready. Okay, so with this, no, I don't need to append values on this. It's only one session. But here, yes, I am going to trigger this convert. And so this now, I will say convert complete, and the element is the user test session. And what I'm doing now is trigger a custom event, which is the write to local storage. So basically, as soon as my test session is created, I'm writing to the local storage, and then I'm going to copy this. And let's get to where we're getting our last one here, right? So modify items, what was this? User answers. And modify test session. Okay, yes, yes. All right, so now let's do another one when the modification is complete, and it's the user test session. We're just gonna paste that in to trigger that. Okay, so that's good. And what else are we doing in here? We've got 1 minute. Okay, so test session modifications complete. Yeah, we're thinking about the writing of local storage. I also need to write the local storage for okay, I am pasting this now because I'm creating another custom trigger. And this time write local storage, user answers. Okay, let's put this in, user answer. What? Yeah, no, sorry. I'm reading this. Alright, I had copied and pasted that. So let's change that, user answer. User answer. Alright, so this, no. What do I want to write? I'm trying to write the entire thing that's coming out of Data Jedi user answers, which is a list. It's not going to be just one thing, which the test is one thing, but this is a list. So I'm just going to clear this off. So here, I'm just going to get this put together. I need to do the Data Jedi user answer value list formatted as text. Okay, so let's put the delimiter in, and we need to get that content to show off of the API connector. User answer. Okay, so let's paste this into the workflow, format as text. Here we go, and let's get this plugged in. This user answer ID. Yeah, question ID. Test ID. Selected answer. Whoa. Bubble's been bugging me, not putting us onto the right spot. It's supposed to be putting us onto the final portion of the dynamic expression, not the beginning. It's supposed to be on the field already. Format as JSON safe, the booleans. Okay, come here. Started at, formatted as, simplify extended ISO. Test session ID. Okay. Trigger right, yes. Alright. So we've got that put together. Alright, so every time that it writes, it's going to then trigger that event that was written, and it's going to read it, so we'll be in sync with what's actually up there and what's in our page so we can debug. Now I need to be triggering that. I need to trigger that button start. Ooh, I never set it up to create the answer choice. on the first thing. This needs to convert. It's got to convert for the user answers. Whoops. So yes, it's fine. Yes. Okay, so we're converting here because we're creating it on the next button press. So I'm just going to copy this. I can paste that in. This might need to change. I'm going to change this anyway because I would already know what is the first question, right? It's just the value list first thing. Oh, did we sort it? Okay, we need the ID. All right, that's fine. Yeah, and we're converting, that's good. Test session, convert complete. I need to do copy paste, and we need to do the user answer is convert complete, and we need to trigger the right to user storage, and then modification complete. When do we modify? We modify when they make their selection, right? And are these doing the modifications? Yes. Let's make sure, yes. Okay, so yeah, we do this, copy, paste, user answers, trigger the user answers. Okay, so we've got things set up in such a way that we're, creating these new things as they're pressing the buttons. The creation of, user answers, user test session, those are all happening client side. They're not interacting with the server at all. So none of them are costing any workload units, but also too, none of them are in the database. And so what that means is we wouldn't be able to basically recover any of this should the user close the page or browse away or something like that. However, with the local storage, that's not the case. Local storage essentially is going to stay on the client's device. It's going to stay on the user's computer. So if they did navigate away and then they came back on the same device on the same browser, the local storage would have the information already in there about what are the existing values to pull into the data Jedi elements to essentially just get them right back to where they were. And in order to like provide that type of functionality, you just need to do conditionals, and you'd be able to say like, looking at the local storage value, right? Like user answers, local storage value. You would put that into the data Jedi element conditionally, right? So this expression would be on the data Jedi element on user answer, and you'd basically just say when the value is not empty. However, you need an end operator. You would need some other kind of value, some other sort of flag to know, hey, like, should we be checking on the local storage right now to do something, right? So like building out like the real functionality for this on an app that's like a quiz app, you wouldn't be doing it on the same page where like the user's taking the test from necessarily. I mean, you could, it's fine, but I'm imagining more a situation of like, yeah, they dropped off, but then like the next day they return to the home page. Okay, so like, oh, the user's just back on the site. Your local storage is there. It's not on any one particular page. So like anywhere from within your application where the user might return to, you would be able to have a flag that essentially says if the local storage value is not empty and, right, and they're on this page or blah, 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 give the user some indication that, hey, there's an existing test that's not complete yet. You know, do you want to just go back and complete this test right now? And so once they've followed that path, you'd have another flag on this page of tests to indicate like, oh yeah, this is like a return, right? It's not the starting of a new test, it's actually the returning of a user who was mid-test when they dropped off. And so to do that, right, just put in your condition of whatever it needs to be, and then the value data type JSON is just your local storage value, and that's all you need to do. And then your data Jedi element will have all those objects in there, and every other kind of condition that you would have had on the page to begin with that is using the data Jedi element here as a reference within the expressions to know like where or what to be doing and when, it's already there. So you don't need to, you know, do anything else to be able to get some pretty expanded functionality in terms of like users coming back in if they haven't finished. And because of that, like that means you don't really need to be concerned with the idea that, well, these things are being created client side. They're not getting saved into the database until the user's like all the way done, right? Like that is essentially the way that you would save the workload units on not needing to touch your bubble database every time somebody starts a test and every time somebody is selecting an answer. But also too, like there's the workload unit savings in terms of having them stored in the database within these objects that are, you know, returning cheaper search consumption and faster responses as well. The ability to run data analytics on it and get the sort of information that you want to pull out of it, to be able to get the sort of information of like how many people are answering it right or wrong and how long is it taking on average for people, because the data structure is supporting all of that. And so within this setup right now, you know, at least in terms of how far I'm going on this right now, I think it's all set up. And the only other thing that would need to be done is to test it. And to test it, I'm going to just create some data off the camera and have it ready for testing. Because I'm not going to take this time to like set up, oh, how do you actually like create this stuff to begin, like already running through enough of how to set things up to create them on the client side for other reasons, that it's the same process. Somewhere within your app where you have a CRUD like functionality, a form, you would basically be creating these objects on the client side, and when they press the button to save it into the database, right? So essentially here, like, what's the last things that are really needing to happen is when we get to the last items and it is now complete, we would be able to run the process of saving it. Now here, this isn't a correct condition. This is not going to actually get what we need. We need to know whether or not the Data Jedi answers has everything. So this is a wrong thing there. So let's just copy this. Let's paste this in. That's fine. So what's the filter on here? Question ID is that. Okay. Value list filtered. What I'm looking for is knowing that answered at is not empty. So I'm looking at the Data Jedi elements user answers value list, which when it's the last question, it will know, like the value list will have a answer already prepared because we're saving the start time. But it will not have had an answered at. It doesn't get the answered at until they actually select their choice. And so it's at that moment when they select their choice on the last question that it's actually, the test is over. So that's why I need to change this. The complete there, that's fine. And so I want to know that the count basically is 0. I want to know that there are none in that list that have answered at as being empty. Okay, so this needs to change to is, and 1 needs to change to 0. All right. So this is how I know that it's over. So I'm going to copy that expression. I'll get rid of the button start thing. It's not necessary. But essentially, I'm just going to put a workflow into here. Yeah, and create it. This is when condition is true. So every time, let's paste that expression in. Let's get rid of the end. Okay. Yeah. So the user won't need to press any button or anything. It will just be that as soon as the Data Jedi element or modified and added in the answered at, then this condition will be met and the event will trigger, right? So here, what am I going to be doing? I'm going to save. And what do I save? Let's go into the database. I think what I'm going to save is this. I'm going to user it's going to be user test sessions. So I am going to have the user owner do the user data type, and I'm going to have my user test session hybrid okay, it's only going to ever be 1 there, and create. Now here's the thing, I can set this up so that we have this data type that is going to actually be pulled up, like, and giving us all these other details in such a way that now I need the fields to go along with it. I need to know what were the user answer choices. And it will be a list. And I need to know nothing else really, because the test session as an object, the test session has the test ID, which is in the database, and the user. So I don't really even need the user on the thing that I had there, but it just makes it a little bit easier. Yeah, and then the answers. Right, we've got all the questions and the test IDs. So the test is in the database already. Right, so we don't need to put onto this data type here of user test sessions a relationship to the test here. We don't need to do that because we have the relationship on these objects already. So that whenever it is that we want to look at user test sessions, from these objects we can pull out the test from the database and all of its related questions and answer choices, etc. That would be like a whole nother part of this app, right? Like that's more focused on the app admin, user owner type of functionalities. So I'm not going to be demonstrating that stuff. But at this point, I think we've got everything in place in terms of functionality other than just saying, let's do this, create a new thing. Let's get it into the database. And so that's going to be the user test sessions. We want to add set the list, and that list is going to be the data Jedi user answers value list. Our user owner is the current user, and then our hybrid is going to be the data Jedi user test session value list first item. So that would be that. That's how you would set it up, so that the cost basically of somebody taking a test is the page download, like the page loading of 0.15. You would have the individual data request to get the test on there, so it's like another 0.15. And then you would have the creation of the user test sessions into the database, which would be 1.62. So the whole thing for someone to land on a page and take the test would cost like around 2 workload units.